cost involved. So obviously what it means is that a larger chunk of Ghanaians cannot afford that process of going to court to compel state institutions to provide us information. Only a few privileged people who will have the means to do so can do that. However, that is not the intent of the Constitution. That is why we believe that once RTI becomes law and all these modalities have been clearly spelled out and all the structures established, it means that now that barrier which has been created has now been largely removed. That is the barrier of discretion that public officials are using to deny members of the public information will now be completely removed or limited to the highest level. Because for now, nobody can just use his or discretion to deny you information. Therefore, once you follow the procedure, the officer has a timeline to give you a response to whatever request you have made. And this is why the RTI is so important. There is a complete misconception in the system that this law is coming only for journalists to go and attack politicians. But the truth of the matter is that is a total miseducation and misconception. The law is coming for every Ghanaian to use.
So Elvis has made an important point about how it lays out the procedure and it also binds leadership to certain timelines so that the information that we seek can be made available to us. Shamima Muslim is the convener for Women in Media. She has joined us on the phone lines to contribute to this all-important issue. Good morning, Shamima.
Good morning to you, Daniel. And how are you?
Oh, I am blessed. How are you?
Great. Good morning to all those listening to us as well.
Now, you have been practicing for years. Tell us those instances where you needed information and an RTI law would have really helped you.
Well, let me just start by saying that information is a human right. And as countries, we can't sign on to international treaties and conventions that enjoins us to uphold rights in all of its forms, in all of its manifestations. And then when it comes to actually operationalizing it, we begin to have state reasons why existing, regulations and laws allow for us to have access to information anyway. Access to information is a human right. Human rights are guaranteed to all citizens by mere fact of you being a human being and being a citizen of Ghana. All of us journalists, we know it. There are so many instances where you call people in public office or people who are running private organizations that are using public funds for basic information. And for women especially, the kinds of things you go through, the kinds of coercions, other than just giving you that basic information that you request for, it's appalling. And I think we're only just saying that remove the bottlenecks that inhibit and limit our access to information that would help us bring literacy to the citizens. And speaking from the point of civic journalism that enjoins all of us to be part of the public debate. And if you look at what the Pew Center said, it says that the way we do our journalism affects the way public life goes. The way we have to do our journalism should depend on us having access to the right information. We shouldn't be operating and dealing in journalism that thrives only on deep throat sources, because it leads to this same era of fueling facts that may not be verified. But because people are unwilling to come out with the truth, you are compelled to come out with something that might not be wholly validated, with the hope that people will now be forced to come and verify or validate or challenge those assumptions. Right? So for me, my key point is to really get all of us into the civic mode, to come out in our numbers tomorrow and to press for Parliament to do the right thing and pass the RTI bill.
Thank you so much, Shamima Muslim, for adding your voice to this. Elvis Darko has been on the other line. Good morning, and thank you as well, Elvis.
Thank you so much.
Right. It's 10 minutes past 8 on the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. Listen to this.
The contractors are back. Are on the Kwapukom Apiga Road. They are remobilizing. And as I did say, that within 2 months, they will come back because we have negotiated with them and we have gone far and we have reached an agreement. Yes, it did happen. They came back. And there are issues relating to that. That's why I'm saying that it's not as easy as that. And
so when are they expected to finish the footbridges?
I will speak to that when I come back. Daniel, please don't push me to. I say I will speak to that. Simple. When I come back. Thank you very much.
So that was Roads and Highways Minister Kwesi Amoakwata. And this conversation is not about him personally. But that was a public official who was responding to a request for information from a citizen. This information was related to the deaths of over 190 people. Of course, that number has been contested over time. Another figure has been quoted of 24. The point we are making is we were asking for information that was tied to the loss of lives on the Medina Adenta Highway. We needed to know so that citizens can rest assured that something is being done about a pressing need. A government official told us that because he's away on trip, he cannot give us that information. This is why an RTI bill is important. Because if you drive on a road and the road is bad, if you are going to the hospital and the hospital needs subvention from government, it becomes difficult to know if indeed something is being done. And you have a right to know. Another person who is deeply involved in this is Kofi Abochi. He's the former immediate past dean of GIMPA. He's joined us on the line. Good morning, Mr. Abochi. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, and Mr. Abochi is also a partner at Axis Legal Solicitors. We are very grateful for your time. Mr. Abochi, so in your voice, in about a minute, why is this important?
Sorry, you have to repeat that.
We just want to know why you think the RTI bill is important.
Why I think it's important?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I need to state that obviously it is important, but its importance has been way overstated. Here's what happened. The Constitution provided for a right to information. Now, constitutional provisions are as enforceable on their own as acts of Parliament. However, the structure of our laws is that the Constitution provides framework provisions, so to speak. The Constitution caters for framework provisions, i.e. the Constitution makes for general provisions, and the expectation is that Parliament will fill in the details. So legislations are used to extend constitutional provisions. They are not used to validate or to replace constitutional provisions. Therefore, the RTI bill is merely designed to elaborate on the constitutional provision on the right to information. The reason I said it is overstated is because we really do not need an RTI bill in order to enforce the right to information. One can go to court and enforce his right to information today. What the Constitution has done is rather to give, if you like, the government, through Parliament, the opportunity of stating circumstances under which a person may not be entitled to certain information, for example. So Parliament is supposed to detail these out and then to state the exceptions, the circumstances under which if a person claims access to a particular information, government can deny that for certain justifiable reasons, a particular information should not be released to a person. So the RTI bill and therefore the RTI law act is rather to the benefit of government, it's to the benefit of an administration, which includes Parliament, which includes the whole body of our government. It is to the benefit of these entities and not to the people, so to speak. In other words, for us, as we speak today, one can go to court and demand any information, and without an exception, what it means is that all these information which is available to government, they are all entitled, they are all amenable to being released to a person asking for them. And so it's been overstated, and the impression has been created as if it is rather the people who need the right to information. It is indeed government who actually needs the Right to Information Act, not the people.
Right. Thanks so much, Mr. Abochi. But you see, in your work as a lawyer, you are not a journalist. You are not in government either. In what ways could the RTI bill have made your work easier?
It would make all our work easy, including the courts, for one reason. The reality is that we know that not all information should be released. For justifiable, technical, feasible reasons, certain information should simply not be released. For example, the total quantum of armor available to the Ghana Armed Forces. For example, issues affecting, let's say, our territorial integrity, security-sensitive information, certain information that can jeopardize the very stability of a country. Certain information should simply not be released to people. So it is in the interest of all that we have a certain itemization of the categories of information that simply should not be released to persons claiming them. Therefore, even though what I said, technically and theoretically, is good, I mean, it's sound and therefore can be enforced, even I can't or will not feel comfortable going to court, for example, asking the court to enforce the right to information provision in the Constitution as it stands, and asking the court basically to declare that all information should be available in the public domain. So the reality is that there's a certain pragmatism that informs the necessity of Parliament coming out with a law. And that is partly the reason why, for all these years that we do not have a Right to Information Act, people basically are not enforcing the constitutional provision on its own per se. And so it is necessary. It will help all of us. You don't have to be in government. We are all citizens. We have been charged by our president to become citizens. So we're all citizens. And being citizens, there are circumstances when we would all want to have access to certain information that ordinarily should be in the public domain, but that are not. And they are on the files of certain ministries, agencies, and departments, or even in the office of the president. Anybody at all should have the right to request these information, but itemizing them in the legislation helps all of us to know the scope and the parameters of these requests, so that we put in claims that are not only justifiable, but that are legally protected by way of itemization. And that's why I think that, yes, Parliament still has to go ahead and pass a Right to Information Act.
Right. Thanks so much, Kofi Abochi, former Dean of the Gimpa Law School. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, adding your voice to this very important conversation. Let me come back to the studio for a few quick comments on this. Anymore, you think this bill is important?
Yeah, I mean, it is, obviously. And Raymond and I were just talking about it. And sometimes when we talk about some of these things, it seems like it's a bit far-reached and kind of up there, and so doesn't really affect us as average human beings. But, I mean, and I was asking him, coincidentally, that how does it affect me? Because I feel like maybe a lot of people listening would wonder that it's something for the lawyers or for the media personnel. A good example is my road is really bad. I know that some money perhaps has been allocated to the fixing of roads within a specified time frame. Now, I want to know how much money has been allocated. I want to know whether the contracts has been awarded. I want to know what stage of work it's in, when it's going to be completed, things like that affect us. And if this bill is passed, then it makes information like that more accessible, and you can actually then stand on the law and demand rights to answers to some of these things. And sometimes we assume that information will be given to us because it's information that should be accessible, but sometimes it's not. And we here, for example, have had that so many times when we want some sort of information, and you find that you have to go round and round the houses to be able to get something that really should have been very easy. But obviously with this information is accessible and becomes a right fundamentally. So yes, and the other thing
is a right. What we don't have is the procedure.
But that's what I meant. The other thing that is interesting, and I keep on asking myself, is why it has taken so long. What is it in the bill that brings so much resistance? You know what I mean? Because if it's really just, so that citizens can have access to some information and so that there's transparency, why is it such a big deal? It's been, how many years? Almost 13,
About
I think.
17, actually.
Yes. Sorry. So, yeah, and so that's something that I'm interested in, why it has taken so long.
And maybe I'll start from this particular point. There is some element of, unfounded fear in the Ghanaian politician that when I open up more, I'll be exposed. It goes with the background that I'm doing something woefully wrong. I have so many skeletons that when I open up, people will just tear me apart. That's what informs a certain member of parliament, a lawyer for that matter, and somebody who's been minister before. His commentary that government will grant to a halt if we allow right to information to go ahead. I mean, very preposterous commentary from somebody of his caliber. Where he studied, where he had his law degree and all of that, it was within the confines of a bigger right to information environment. But he doesn't care about that. It's also because it's as if a grouping feels that they have the right. They forget that even the power they have today is from the people to them, and that they are exercising this power on behalf of the people. Apart from the fact that, and Abochi talked about, we not the only people who need it, but even for a politician, it's true. Which information to release at all points in time, you should be guided by some principle that will make your exercise of even discretion reasonable. So that today, if you ask for security information, it depends on whether or not you are willing or unwilling to release that. But if you have a regime that says that, no, as for security information that can compromise the state's security, you can't let that one out.
Yeah.
Regardless of who you are. So you're even protected as a politician or a public servant in whichever position. If they see it that way, they will see that we are not forcing them to do something against their will. It's not as if we want to kill a certain section of our society, open them up and expose them needlessly. It's because there's the need for guidance on what to do. We can't go to court every other time when there's a need for some information, for some lines to be drawn on this matter. It is in everybody's interest. Let me break it down. Come to the level of the ordinary student. Now, I know so many people who have done research and have to delay their research for a very long time because the information they are seeking from a government agency is not coming. So the guy has like a year to provide his thesis. Within that year, he's been trying to write in and out to government. And listen, the thesis is supposed to make systems better, contribute to knowledge, improve systems. The guy can't get the basic information from the government official or a public servant to be able to do that. This is stifling not only academic work, but also research for development. Assuming the guy is improving the water systems in the country, and he cannot get information from the Ministry of Water and Sanitation today, what it means is that our current state of school, to do the kind of water we are having, will still continue. Maybe this guy is going to provide a groundbreaking work that's going to improve the lives of people. But we are holding on to that because some official is one either unclear in his mind whether to release it or not. Two, does not know what under which regime they are supposed to release the information. And three, is overly protective of the information because they fear it might be put to use against their interest. This is how relevant is it even at that level. Beyond that, every assemblyman is supposed to hold meetings about 3 times in a year. Assemblyman with the people in his locality. The assemblyman is only as informed as what is sometimes in the open. He may not know beyond even the assembly. He may not get the information that he wants from there. How is the guy who's the direct link to the people on the ground supposed to inform them? You hope you get what I'm trying to say. Let's also take an opposition MP who is also mandated to engage his constituents. Like they do elsewhere. They hold town hall meetings, they take their views, supply their views, and tell them what government has been doing. This opposition MP, because it's not in power, cannot even get basic information to go and tell my people that, please, next month, we are fixing this road in this area. When I spoke about it in Parliament 2 months ago, this is the latest update on that. Even those in power who are supposed to participate in the legislature, debate properly based on information, might be equally as starved of the information as we are here today. So it is not about the investigative powers of a journalist to expose
it's more than that.
Yes, it is actually beyond every single engagement. It's just like saying that if government is participatory, let's help you make things better.
Help us to participate.
Very good.
In governance.
And in any case,
guys,
how many years?
I have a question, and it's exactly on this point of number of years. Like since 2001, 2002, we've been talking about this, and it seems like that groundswell of support from citizenry has not really been seen. Is it that we do not value anybody? Is it that we do not value as a people what information can give us, what power information can give us?
I think maybe there's an element of not valuing the power of information, but I think also that it might be that we're not sure exactly how it applies to us as regular Ghanaians. You know what I mean? So is the average Ghanaian interested in when their road is going to be fixed? Is the average Ghanaian interested in what their MPs can tell them? Because there's also a lot of loss of faith. So there's the fact that, okay, maybe one, we're not valuing the information. Two, we don't trust the source of information. And I think generally, maybe most average Ghanaians are overwhelmed by other things. And so information on these kinds of things may not exactly be priority. You know, you're thinking about your child's school fees. You're thinking about, how to provide for the family. You're thinking about job security. And then, in the mix of all of this, how does this bill factor in? So
and then again, it's interesting because I remember after we did the series of reports on armed robbery and daylight robbery that were going on, I went home and we had a meeting at home about how the steps we are going to take to keep our home more safe. No one ever thought to ask at that point, are we going to get more police patrols?
Yeah.
Is the police going to do something? What are our MPs doing? What's our MCE doing? There seems to be a general disconnect between what the people we pay our taxes to will do with our taxes and how we live. And Raymond, I just want to give a quick example before you come in. This talk about free SHS and how parents must be allowed to pay their kids' school fees. Someone made a point that if you have money to pay school fees, pay taxes. However, we don't trust. I don't know if I can use that expression.
It's trust.
Because again, if you look in the last few rounds of the Afrobarometer, citizens' trust in elected officials has repeatedly gone down.
Yeah.
So we don't trust that when we pay the taxes, it's directly connected to my child going to
education,
school. So that let me
education.
keep the money and use it to pay school fees
directly,
rather than
to
give
school.
it to you so that you use it to pay school fees.
Yeah.
Is that the mindset between us not really showing that passion about information and how we can use it to check government?
I mean, I'm one of those who believes that many people have checked out of this state. They believe in solving their own problems. They believe in making sure that, I mean, for example, he has bad roads in this area. He's been complaining now. He bought some small car. Every single week, one part is broken, another part is going to mechanic and all of that. He then struggles very hard to get himself a four-wheel drive, solving his problem. Not that of the area.
Community,
the communal problem is not solved. He solved this problem. He has water problems. He's been going to the water company, come and fix it. Then he says, okay, yes, buy a polytank. That's a borehole. Then actually the pump is on it. Then he's solving his problem again. Not that of the rest of the people in the community. Because the other person without a WC may choose to make your backyard the place they do their thing. Open defecation, you're likely to suffer from it. But they don't care really that much because it looks like the state is very far from them. The state is not willing to engage them because their policy is not related to the person. Assuming the times they've heard and seen journalists trying to ask for basic information for them, how have they been given? Assuming the assemblyman got enough information to go around and be telling the people that, yes, we know that your road is very bad. Government has put in their budget to do this road in the next few months. So please expect some development. People have it in mind, okay, this government is delivering on the goals we expect him to do so. So brilliant. We'll go ahead and pay our taxes. We'll go ahead and make sure that people don't destroy the roads. We'll also be watchdogs. So it is because they are cut off and they don't want to be seen as being politicians. Because in this country, the people who are demanding, they are the ones that will be colored as, oh, this guy is MPP or NDC.
It happened with Madina Denta.
Yes.
Immediately, these guys were branded as belonging to a certain party.
Very good. So he doesn't want to come out that way because this might be some guy who's doing his business in one corner. And this country, when you're painted, it affects a lot of things, including your business. So such a person would not want to be in that light. He will solve his problem and pretend he doesn't care about it. But you see, some of these people were also young people. They bring to schooling. They are actively interested in how their state is being run because they know it affects their lives in so many ways. But because the circumstances disallow that, he cannot justify to his family why he cannot bring food home because he became very active and very popular and engaging the people on the most important things. That justification cannot happen.
So the heart of the matter really that we are bringing up this morning is that in the first place, what happens with your tax money must matter to you. If you pay taxes, it must matter to you. Secondly, your government is going to affect you in one way or the other. Yesterday, I was on a program at the IEA moderating an anti-corruption panel, and Manasseh was speaking about how you can choose not to take bribes all your life, but if you go to the hospital one day and your wife is on the brink of death and you have to pay a bribe before she can get the basic treatment, that is when we realize how important it is that our state systems must work. And so if the beginning really is being concerned about how your country is run in the first place and drawing those links between how much you pay your school fees for, what hospital you go to, what road you drive on, all of that must matter to you. And then we talk about the most important thing now, getting the information on how that is being delivered to you. That's why we believe this right to information bill is important, and that's why we here on the Super Morning Show and at the Multimedia Group are not just supporting, but we are a big part of this RTI campaign. We're gonna take some important messages, and when we come back,
I am innocent, but they beat me up badly.
They
wanted to destroy the eyes of my child. When I saw them, I thought they were dead. My son's head was so swollen that I could not even recognize him.
Jojo Cobner's Hotline documentary, As If We Were Not Humans, airs after this.
It's a new day. I want you to first think big, not small. Think of how great we can be when we work together. Together, we can ensure that our hard work will provide a better future. Together, we can provide a foundation for you and your business to succeed, regardless of its size. Together, we can create opportunities for all. Bank with us today and let's journey forward together. Forward together. Cowbank, forward together.
The other day, as I was in my kitchen preparing my special jollof